I want to talk about the next player, and I think this is going to be the conversation that maybe takes us the longest, so I want to knock it out early. It's Brock Purdy for me. And you're like, oh, what do you mean he's a league winner? Everyone knows he's a league winner. I get it. I'm cheating here a little bit because of how good Tom, he's the QB5 and 4-point pass. I get it. I know. I totally know. He is a league winner. But he has Arizona, which they could easily get up early. Shanahan keeps the foot down until about halfway through the fourth quarter. That's right, Toronto Dave. Big cock Brock. I'm not afraid to say it. He has Baltimore, which Matthew Stafford just toasted up. We're going to talk about that Baltimore defense and why it's beatable. They are the fake number 1 seed in the AFC, but with Lamar, that game was absolutely insane.
You're like the most. You have
their
some
defense,
internalized hatred over your own team
because their defense is beatable. They're not a scary matchup in terms of my guys won't produce.
I mean, they might not be that great of a team, but I think that they are the best team in the AFC. There's just no perfect team in the AFC.
True, right? It's not the NFC is wild and then
if
Washington.
Dallas was in the AFC, they would be like an overwhelming favorite, and
they'd be
they're clearly not the favorite in the NFC. But I think Baltimore is the best of the group in the AFC. I mean, they're my pick in the AFC preseason. I'm sticking by that, but that's more due to I just have even more questions about the other teams in the AFC. I mean, weirdly enough, I still think if Buffalo gets in, they're extremely live.
I think they're cooked, but that's me personally. I want to talk about. Sorry, I just keep hitting this little button on my headset here. Keep muting myself. Washington's the matchup you want to target throughout these playoffs, and he gets them in week 17. So that's championship winning. Washington is so horrendously bad. I think there's only 3 quarterbacks that haven't passed 230 yards. They're giving up +7 passing fantasy points, DraftKings fantasy points per game, according to Jake Tribby, that did the DFS early look last night. He's gonna win leagues. Now, how this pertains to his dynasty value, which is the important part of this, Brock Purdy should be going in the mid-second round in startups next offseason, and he won't, because there is an ick upon Brock Purdy that is uncurable. It does not matter how good he is. The craziest stat that I have found so far from Brock Purdy comes from Steven Ruiz. The most insane Brock Purdy, this is at the Steven Ruiz. He's a writer for The Ringer. The most insane Brock Purdy stat. If you take out all of his throws beyond the line of scrimmage, he'd still lead the NFL in yards per attempt and EPA per dropback. He's averaging 8.8 yards per attempt and 0.38 EPA on throws of 0 air yards or less. Now, that is a crazy stat. His screen game is unbelievable.
His screen game, he's the driving force of that screen game.
Right, but I'm just saying
number 23 or number 19 or the man in the hat.
That is the big. What I'm saying is that is the big got you moment for Brock Purdy, which I understand that people will hold that against him. His EPA per pass on throws traveling more than 0 yards in the air since 2021, number 1. He does not just need the screen game. He is throwing the ball downfield. That is per Scott Barrett. He is throwing the ball downfield. We saw it just last week. He dotted George Kittle. He dotted Debo. He's not just dinking and dunking it. He is throwing the ball beyond 10, 15, and plus yards in the air. He is still doing it. And I understand the weapons, the efficiency. Get it. Got it. Good. I don't think quarterbacks should get knocked for that. I think they should only get knocked for that if they're also not producing with those things. We don't want to knock Tua because, he has X and X weapons. We bump Tua up for that reason. We should bump Brock Purdy up for that reason. The best part is you don't have to.
For that reason.
What's that?
So I knocked Tua for those reasons, and I knocked Purdy. The difference between them is I have a ton of. Well, but they are pumped up for that. That's why they score so many fantasy points.
Right. But so what I'm saying in that is that if you're looking at Tua the way that you're looking at Tua, and Brock Purdy is doing a better version of Tua than Tua is, then we should be viewing Purdy a little bit higher and closer to that range than we are, and what people are going to do, especially with a new young class of rookie quarterbacks about to come in and excite people. People will still find a way to look down on Brock Purdy, regardless if he goes and wins a championship for them in week 17, which I think is a fundamental flaw in Dynasty. It is, oh, he's an outlier. No, the outlier is quarterbacks just being good in the NFL and for fantasy. Like, that's the outlier. So when we have a quarterback who is good, not just good, but showing that he can be elite through stretches. He beat the shit out of Philadelphia. And it's, well, can he win the big game? Can he make the tight throws? Can he beat the good teams? And then he plays Philly this year and beats them so bad that they're still reeling to this day. It is crazy.
Debo beats them.
Yes, Brock Purdy, okay? QBs are a win.
Like, people do this. People did this shit with Jimmy, and it's the same morons that did this with Jimmy are still doing this with Purdy. And Jimmy can't even beat
He's not Jimmy Garoppolo, though.
Okay, here's Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's better than
sample
Jimmy
of games.
Garoppolo.
Here's Jimmy Garoppolo and his sample of games with Christian McCaffrey. 70.6% completions, 9-1 touchdown interception, 6.4% sack rate, 8 adjusted net yards per attempt, 110.5 quarterback rating. Brock Purdy with CMC. 69% completion percentage, slightly lower. 3.5 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio, much lower. 6.5% sack rate, higher. 8.7 adjusted net yards per attempt, higher, marginally. 103.8 quarterback rating, marginally higher. It's the same thing. We see this every year in San Francisco. Like, this is why I was excited about buying Brock Purdy into the season, because you can't fail. You can't fail. If Sam Darnold was the quarterback this year, it would be the exact same. I'd be buying Sam Darnold. Like, I have no. Brock Purdy was a buy going into the season. He is, in my opinion, still a hold, because I still think this train is on a one-way road to Brock Purdy being valued the same as Tua and Trevor Lawrence and other guys eventually. And I'll get off the train at that point. So I still roster a lot of Brock Purdy in Dynasty. I'll probably continue to up until the point that he gets valued the way that Tom wants it to be valued. So I'm a Brock Purdy real life hater, and I will be probably forever. I think it's absolutely insane that he's like a co-favorite for MVP. But in Dynasty, he's been a buy because, he's going to keep producing as much as these guys.
If you go to our good friends over at Keep Trade Cut, they still have Brock Purdy at a very reasonable QB 13, and that's fine if you don't have him in your top 12. What I'm saying is that he should be there, in my opinion, based off what he is doing.
Fine.
Right, and that's all I'm saying is if Brock Purdy was Bryce Young and drafted in that spot, we would be doing jumping jacks and backflips because of how much of a smash this guy was. He would be where CJ Stroud is right now in Dynasty ranks, but he's not, because he's round 7 and he's playing in San Francisco. I think we're knocking him for the wrong reasons, and I think we're finding every reason to dismiss what he's doing, which is producing for your fantasy teams. And that's what we want. Now, do I think he should be above Justin Fields? I don't know.
Yeah. I do.
It's right there with upside and whatever and rushing. I get it.
Okay.
But
so see, that's where the Dynasty real life thing splits, because I think it's insane that he's even in the same tier as Justin Fields. I would way rather have Brock Purdy.
People they fight to the death on this stuff, but we know how we feel about Justin
anytime
Fields.
Soon. Like, I have no medium term concerns about Brock Purdy's job security. He's going to be top 3 in MVP voting this year. He's not going anywhere.
So I just think that not only is he going to be a absolute league winner with his schedule, I think he's good enough that he should be valued at that mid-second price tag that Deshaun Watson was going at this offseason, and he's not going to, so you don't have to worry about it. In terms of paying, I would pay the 2 first price if I absolutely had to, but generally speaking, you still don't have to, and that's part of what triggers me so hard, is that he is acquirable for less, league depending, obviously, but for the masses, people are still just looking to get out while they can before they wait for an imaginary wheel to fall off. Like you said, he can't fail.
What I would like is for people to please listen to Tom and to get him up to 2 first-round value, because I'm very tired of having this big position on Brock Purdy. It just makes me uncomfortable as a Brock Purdy hater to derive joy from his success. You think I enjoy? Like, this week I was in the Full Tilt Dynasty Invitational, and I'm stuck in this really unpleasant position where Tom and I have a win and in game for the playoffs, and we get to the afternoon slate, and my only path to get into the playoffs is to root for fucking Brock Purdy. And sure enough, he delivers. He delivers me the playoff spot. He delivers like he always does, right? He delivers like he always does. It's a lock. Anytime I look at my lineup and I see Brock Purdy, I'm like, oh, well, he's going to score a lot of points. Things are going to go well for me today. And then I just don't feel like I have any principles. So what I'm asking for, Dynasty community, is if you would like me to return to having principled stances in my life, start valuing Brock Purdy appropriately. Because for as long as you don't value Brock Purdy appropriately, I have to roster Brock Purdy, I have to cheer for Brock Purdy, and I don't deserve Brock Purdy. I hate Brock Purdy, but I keep rostering Brock Purdy, and it's your fault because you don't value him appropriately.
Yeah, again, it's just why I don't. Okay, so this is the best way so let's say with draft picks for sure. Okay, I would love to trade away Brock Purdy for 2 draft picks. What are the chances you're stumbling upon a quarterback with his upside, his
upside
everything?
Is his current. Like he has absolutely zero fantasy upside beyond his current pace, right? Like we are seeing his max 115% ceiling. Like he's leading the world in EPA. He has all the best weapons. He's probably not going to run any more than he's running right now. So what's his points per game right now? Is it 20? I want to say it's roughly.
It's really good. Oh boy.
I mean, it depends on your format.
His fantasy points per dropback is the best in guys that are named Anthony Richardson.
Sure, of course, per dropback, right? But he's not dropping back as many times as other guys.
Right. But he's just unreal. I mean, Scott Barrett looks at fantasy points per dropback as the only quarterback stat you need.
Yeah, Scott Barrett loves Brock Purdy, and
he does, and
he loves him in real life, which actively causes me pain.
That again, I'm with you on the real life thing, but for fantasy football, more quarterbacks fail than they succeed, and I think Brock Purdy is what we wanted Baker Mayfield to be. Baker Mayfield just wasn't, because Baker Mayfield turned out that he sucks.
Well, Baker Mayfield could be. He just wind up in San Francisco.
Oh God! Enough! It's just too much.
But no, for real, I mean, Brock Purdy's at 19.9 fantasy points per game in 4-point leagues, or at least with the exact settings I've punched in. I understand everybody uses slightly different settings for quarterback.
Not in my league, bro.
So he's basically at 20, right? That's right around the average of what we get for your Joe Burrows and your Justin Herberts and your Trevor Lawrence, all these non-rushing quarterbacks. That's where we're going to be. So it's right now it's a cheat code. How much would I pay to have the insurance? He's basically that class of quarterback, same age range. So the way I would view it is how much are you willing to pay on top of Purdy for the insurance of you feel a little bit better about the long-term real life abilities of your quarterback to sustain that production? And it's I would pay a little. I would pay for sure a late first. It's I wouldn't pay 2, right? I would way rather just roll with Purdy at a 1.5 base first value than Burrow at a 3.5 and put those other 2 to work in my lineup. So I think he's legitimately a cheat code. I just hate it because I don't like cheating this way. I'm very pro cheating. Everybody on this podcast knows I love cheating. I like stealing signals. I like steroids. I like flopping. I like deflating footballs. All that stuff. I'm here for all of it.
He's pro spitball.
I'm pro the spitball. I'm pro deferring $680 million worth of contracts.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
I'm pro putting Robert Herjavec on a flight.
Fuck the Dodgers. God, it's too early.
All these things. But in this case, point is you're letting me cheat with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I think the move is to trade your Justin Herberts for Brock Purdy plus. I mean, honestly, I think that's because
if you have
there are people that are still going to feel like you,
guy.
And the Burrows and all that. Trade them for Brock Purdy plus and prosper for 2 to 3 years, whatever it's going to be. Because Shanahan's not going anywhere fast unless he makes an insane speech to his locker room about communication and people want him excommunicado like one Sean McDermott. If he does something dumb, sure, he might go somewhere. But other than that, they're not moving off him in San Francisco. I think Purdy's good. I think he should be valued higher, but the move is to definitely trade any of the other stick figure quarterbacks and not stick figure. What am I talking about? Statue quarterbacks and just trade for Purdy plus with those guys.